Hello, my lovely viewers. Welcome to my channel. I am Samuel, your maths tutor. I'll be using this channel to teach various mathematics topics across various levels of education. So I'll be teaching primary school maths topics, secondary school mathematics topics, and also A-level mathematics topics. So you can see that this channel will be very useful and beneficial. Even those in the college will also benefit from my channel as well. I'll also be solving past questions across various levels. Good. So if you are new to my channel, please, I will encourage you to subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so that you will be the first person to receive any video I'll post out there. Also, like and share my videos to friends and relatives. So today, what are we looking at? Today, we are going to look at part of a circle. Part of a circle. Well and detailed explain. Well and detailed explain. At the end of this topic, these two questions will be answered. One, let me ask you, is diameter a chord? Is diameter a chord? What answer will you give? Let me also ask you this question. Is a semicircle a segment? Is a semicircle a segment? What are your thoughts? Put these two questions in mind. Have your answer in mind. At the end of the topic, these two questions are going to be answered. And you compare your answer to mine and see if you are right. Good. So first of all, let's have our circle. So this is our circle. That's our circle. And the first part of the circle to look at is circumference. Circumference. What is circumference of a circle? Now, circumference of a circle is the distance around the edge of the circle. The distance around this edge of the circle, this whole distance around the edge, is what we call circumference of the circle. So that's circumference. So circumference is the distance around the edge of the circle. So that's circumference of a circle. Now the next thing to look at is arc. Another part to look at is the arc. What is an arc of a circle? Now, we said that this whole distance here around the edge is the circumference. Now, when we consider a portion of the circumference. We consider a portion of the circumference, it becomes an arc. We consider a portion of the circumference, it becomes an arc. Yeah, so let's say we are considering this part from here to this part. We are considering this part if you are considering this part of the circumference, that part of the circumference we are considering is an arc. So we define arc as part of the circumference of a circle. Arc is part of the circumference as part of the circumference of a circle. As part of the circumference of a circle. So anytime you consider a part of the circumference of the circle, we call it arc. Next thing to look at is radius. Radius. Now, before we can show the radius within the circle, we should have the center of the circle. So let's say this is the center of the circle, and the center is the middle part of the circle. Center is the middle part of the circle. Good. So, therefore, what is radius of a circle? Now, the radius is the distance. Is the distance from the center of the circle to any part of the circumference. So, distance from the center to any part of the circumference is a radius. So a distance from here, the center to this part, we can term it what? Radius. So radius is the distance from the center of the circle to any part of the circumference. Good. So that is that for radius. Now the next part to look at is chord. What is a chord of a circle? Chord. For chord, let me have another circle attached so that you can understand chord very well. Now, we define a chord as a straight line. A chord is a straight line that joins any 2 points. That joins any 2 points on the circumference of a circle. Good. So, if you have any straight line you have within the circle that joins any 2 points in the circumference of a circle, it's a chord. So if I join a straight line from this point to that point with a straight line, it's a chord joining 2 points on the circumference. This is also a chord, another chord, another chord, another chord. Right? This is also a chord. It's a straight line. So these are all chords, right? Also a chord. So these are all chords. So a chord is a straight line. It's a straight line that joins any 2 points on the circumference of the circle. So a straight line that joins any 2 points in the circumference of a circle is called chord. So these are all chords. These are all chords, right? Good. Now the next part to consider is the diameter. 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 By the time we are through with the meaning of diameter, then our first question will be answered. That is diameter a chord? I hope you've not forgotten that question. So what's the diameter? Now, diameter simply means diameter is a straight line. It's a straight line that joins any any 2 points. It's a straight line that joins any 2 points on the circumference of a circle. Let me put it this way. It's a straight line that passes through the center of the circle and joins any 2 points on the circumference of the circle. So diameter is a straight line that passes through the center of the circle and joins any 2 points on the circumference of the circle. So let's assume this is the center of the circle. Any straight line that will pass through this center and joins any 2 points in the circumference of the circle is a diameter. So this one is a diameter. Why? Because it's a straight line passing through the center and joins any 2 points in the circumference. If I draw a line through this way, it's also a diameter. It's also another diameter, right? Good. So the diameter, you can have it in so many directions. Suppose it passes through the center and joins any 2 points on the circumference of the circle. It becomes a diameter. Good. Therefore, let's see if we can answer our first question. Let me ask again at this point. Is diameter a chord? Yes, diameter is a chord. Why? It's a chord because it's a straight line. Look at the definition for chord. Chord is a straight line. So that one is a straight line, right? And it's a straight line that joins any 2 points on the circumference of a circle. And a chord, we define a chord as a straight line that joins any 2 points on the circumference of a circle. So the diameter is also that straight line joining 2 points on the circumference. So it's a chord, just that this one passes through the center of the circle, right? Good. So as we said earlier on, we said we have got so many chords within the circle. But among the numerous chords you can have within the circle, there's one of them that will pass through the center of the circle. That will pass through the center of the circle. So because that chord passes through the center of the circle, or because that's the only chord that passes through the center of the circle, is given a special name as diameter. Diameter. So diameter is a chord. So you can even define diameter as a chord that passes through the center of the circle. It can be another definition for diameter. Another definition for diameter is a chord that passes through the center of the circle. Good. So diameter is the only chord that passes through the center of the circle. That is why it's given a special name as diameter. Now the next part to look at is sector. Sector. What is a sector of a circle? What is a sector of a circle? Now let's show the sector of a circle. Let's say this is the center of the circle of our circle, the middle part of the circle. Then we have one radius here. There's another radius here. Now, within these two radius, you could see that there's an area there. And that area or that region is bounded or is enclosed by two radius. So that region, which is enclosed by the two radius, we call that region sector. We call that region sector. Good. So we define a sector as a region. A sector is a region. It's a region enclosed by two radii. It's a region bounded by or enclosed by two radii. That is a sector. So anytime you have two radius within the circle, that region bounded by the two radii, we call it sector. Good. Now, don't forget that now we are saying that this region is bounded by two radii. What of this region? It's also bounded by two radii. We have one radius here, one radius there. So this region is also bounded by two radii. So we also term this region as sector. Yes. But I could see that with these two sectors, one is bigger than the other one. One is bigger than the other one. So the bigger one, we call it major sector, and the smaller one, we call it minor sector. So whenever you have two radius within the circle, it gives rise to two sectors. The bigger one is major sector, the smaller one is minor sector. So that is that for sector. Now let's look at segment. 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 What is the segment of a circle? Now, whenever we have a chord within the circle, the chord divides the circle into two segments. So whenever there's a chord in a circle, that region enclosed by the chord and then the arc. This is an arc. It's part of the circumference. This is also another arc, right? So there's a region here enclosed by the chord and the arc, right? So that region enclosed, by the chord and then the arc, we call it segment. Segment. Yeah, so whenever there's a chord in a circle, it gives rise to two segments. But I realize that with a segment, one is bigger than the other one. So the bigger one, we call it major segment, and the smaller one, we call it minor segment. So whenever there's a chord, have it in mind, in a circle, it gives rise to two segments, major segment and then the minor segment. So we can define segment as it's a region. It's a region enclosed by a chord and an arc. A region enclosed by a chord and an arc. Good. Now, we said that whenever there is a chord within a circle, the chord divides the circle into two segments, minor and then the major segment. Now let me ask you, what if that chord happens to be the diameter? What if the chord happens to be a diameter? Yes, it's still giving a segment. It's a chord. It's a chord, just that it's passing through the center of the circle. So it still gives rise to two segments. So this is a segment. This is also a segment. But the question is, with these two segments, none is bigger than the other one. They are all the same segment. They are all equal. Why? Because that chord dividing the circle is through the center. So it gives rise to two equal segments. So at this point, we are not getting the minor segment and then the major segment. We have equal segment. And because the segments are equal, it's giving a special name. It's giving another special name as semicircle. Half a circle. Half a circle. Good. Semicircle. Semicircle. A semicircle is half a circle. So let's go into our next question. Or second question, is a semicircle a segment? Yes, it's a segment because it's a region enclosed or bounded by a chord and an arc. But because it's equal, it's half the circle, that is why it's given, that segment is given a special name as semicircle. So semicircle is also a segment. Thank you. I hope this video is helpful.